Well, I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm so pleased so many people have joined us to share how Tea with a Pony came about at Cotswold RDA. Cotswold had grown a lot in a couple of years, but we still had a waiting list. We still wanted to do more. So there were several things in the background that happened. So the first thing is my sister is a senior occupational therapist and was working with some dementia care homes and had some miniature ponies go into the care home with really interesting results. My vice chairman has a therapy dog and he works with a local dementia care home. And then we had Mr. Dibbles, the pony, come to us on loan. Now, Mr. Dibbles was not going to manage a full workload. So we were thinking about ways that we might be able to cover the costs for this adorable pony. And that's where the bonkers idea for having afternoon tea with Mr. Dibbles started. So we spoke to the care home and they were so up for it. So what they did was they arranged for some of their residents to come along, but with their family members. So we had husbands and wives, we had sons, daughters, nieces and nephews all come along. And if we could move on to the next slide, Anna, please. I'll try not to be Chris Whitty. So this is the first session, and as you can see, it was quite busy. And the plan was that they would have tea and cake while watching one of the group lessons. And then we would move out into the sensory walk. So tea and cake was served, and there was instant reaction from the children riding, waving to the gallery and waving back. So you got that gorgeous intergenerational connection. And after the lesson had finished, the volunteers spontaneously brought the ponies up to the gate on the gallery to meet people. And then we did take them out to the sensory walk. So if we could, to the next slide, please, Anna. And that's where the memories started. Memories rekindled from times of ponies past. Our sensory walk backs onto Cheltenham Racecourse. We had one whose father and grandfather had raced as amateur jockeys. And so they went straight back into the excitement of that day together. We had one who'd grown up on a horse-drawn barge, and she was talking about how heavy the harnesses were. And then when she led the pony, she recalled leading the pony along the canal. We had one who'd grown up in London and was relocated to Gloucestershire during the Blitz. And meeting the pony rekindled those memories of growing up in the Blitz. Really interesting stuff. And then one of my favourites, we had one who was 103 with her niece. And she recalled a conversation, she recalled saying, I came home from school and there my brother was hoovering my pony. Now, it was a funny, lovely little story, but the niece hadn't heard it before. And that facilitated a really special memory. So if we click on to the next one, I apologise for the standard of this photo. I took it and I was laughing so much. I apologise that it's a little bit out of focus. But it's to show that you can do it anywhere. We did it in our sensory walk. We've done it in our paddocks, in our arena, out in the stable yard. And many RDA groups have already created a quiet corner. So if we move on to the next one. And no matter where you do it, I love this photo because it connects to the heart, and it's that connection with the ponies that opened up the memories. And if we move on again. Now this one, I remember it really well. Gorgeous couple. And the wife came to me after the session, very, very tearful. And she thanked me for the session. She'd had to put her husband in the home and she found it really difficult to connect with him. And she talked about how meeting the pony and all of that connection again enabled her to join back with him in his world. they actually ended up being regular visitors. They didn't come with the home, they just came as a couple. And if we click on, now this is Annie. It is my absolute favourite photograph of the session. Now, Annie loved the time there. And then she went back to the care home and painted a portrait of the pony. The home said the residents were talking about it, and so could we send a box of stuff up. So we sent some hay, some old stirrup leathers. We resisted the urge to send some manure, but I was tempted. And that box came out for weeks afterwards and helped to promote meaningful conversations with the family members. But there's hidden benefits. The ponies love it. It's something different, a lot of fuss. But also for the volunteers. One of the volunteers, she'd had a very, very, very difficult journey and lost her mum through dementia. And she talks about how supporting these sessions has helped her navigate her way through her own grief. And then we have another one. We have Sonia. So Sonia had volunteered with us for decades. She was in her 80s, and it was getting close to the time where she was going to have to stop volunteering with us because she just wasn't safe on the floor anymore. So I asked her, I said, Sonia, you wouldn't help host these sessions. She knows RDA inside out, and this has given her a new lease of life. And there was a particularly poignant time when we knew we were having a rider from Cotswolds past. And blow me, when this participant arrived, Sonia used to be her coach 30 years ago. So there was another fantastic connection. And if we click through to the next slide, oh, that's it, I'll make that donation to the Resilience Fund. It's a great PR story. So we were really lucky. We had Mike Bushell from BBC Breakfast News come along and do a piece on us, and it was broadcast on Gold Cup Day 2019. And the inquiries that came through from that, we had visitors from as far away as Kent. We had a care home in Aylesbury come every month with a minibus full of people. RDA and cake, they go together hand in glove. And what I really love about this is it's using what we're already doing, our core riding, but in a slightly different way. It's that classic head heart. Head, it's a new revenue stream. And the heart, it's making memories in a very, very difficult time for families. And I can't recommend we do it. I can't recommend you do it enough. I really can't.
Thank you very much, Claire. That was absolutely fantastic. I think we're going to move on now to a few questions and answers. So I'll hand over to Lucy.
Thank you. So together with the working group for this wonderful project, we've thought really carefully about how we can implement some training and get more groups involved. So firstly, as you can see from the slide there, we're encouraging all group volunteers who will be involved with the Tea with a Pony to become a dementia friend. All you'll have to do is join. So you would click on Become a Friend, follow the link through, and it's a free 30 to 40 minute presentation via Zoom with a dementia friend champion. So they will have been trained. They will be able to teach you the things they know. If you click on Become a Friend, then follow the steps through until you find a list of presentations and you can find a date and a time to suit you. We've also been looking at the risk assessment. So this will be in addition to your usual risk assessments, along with your COVID risk assessment too. And we will be offering Zoom training on this as well, just to make sure groups are comfortable before taking on their first session. So please look out for those. We will be advertising them by the weekly newsletter and also on the events page of my RDA. Something else we firmly believe in is that engaging with your local care home is probably the most crucial part of this activity and helping the sessions be so successful. Claire, from your experience, how could you explain how you managed to tackle this and how how groups may build their relationship with the care home.
Absolutely, yeah. And actually, if I just pick up a point on the risk assessment, it gives a lot of information about dementia. But the one thing I'll give you as a red line on this one is make sure it's one-to-one. It mitigates so many of the risks. A lot of dementia people get a little bit disorientated and confused. And by having a carer or a family member with them, it really supports the sessions through. But yeah, getting out there, well, to be honest, most care homes will have activity coordinators, and they tend to be fantastic people that are looking for things to do. And particularly post-COVID, they're going to be looking for activities where they can manage the numbers that are there. And obviously it can be a private session. So reach out to your local care homes. Some counties have meaningful activity networks, and I just went along and did a presentation to about 30 care homes. They all talk to each other and the word gets out very quickly. But also dementia is such a big issue within our country, and you'll find volunteers, riders will also hear about it. And again, it is a great PR opportunity. Our local radio picked up on it, and WI presentations, that sort of thing.
Thank you, Claire. And some groups don't have sensory gardens, and they might not feel they're suitable. Is that a challenge for the groups, or do you think there's a way they could overcome?
Absolutely. We are lucky. We've got some space and we've got a sensory walk, but it doesn't matter where you do it. It really doesn't. You could do it in an indoor arena, an outdoor arena, in a corner of a field. You know, there really is, we're blessed with good facilities, but the quiet corners that people have found, that sort of area would be absolutely perfect.
Thank you. I can't see any questions here, so I'm not sure if there's any that have popped up while we've been.
No, I'll move on. I'll give people instructions. So I can see actually we've got 68 participants joined us today, this evening. So if anybody's got any questions they would like to ask either Claire or Lucy, if you go to the bottom of your screen, the only way you can engage with us during this webinar is unfortunately not by talking to us, but by typing something in a little Q&A button at the bottom. So if you click on where it says Q&A, and then you can just type in there, please type away any questions. Oh, they're coming in. I feel like I'm on a radio show or something. So Christina Grieve was the first one to come in. So thank you for this. How are these sessions funded? So that's to Claire.
Yeah, well, so what we did was we wanted to obviously generate some more money. And so what was happening, they're watching what we're already doing. And so what we did was we made a small charge. We made a charge of £5 per person to come along, and that included tea and cake. Now with cake, the homemade side of things, you've got to be very careful with food allergies. You know, they're serious and they can be fatal. However, what we used to do was purchase a Victoria sponge from the Co-op. Other brands are available, but also volunteers would bring them. And so what we would talk about is, here's the allergens, this has been made in a proper production. Here's Joyce's cake. I don't know where it's come from. Please choose which one you'd like to have.
Thank you very much. We've got a couple more questions about charging, so I think you've answered that. So Sheena Bowers says, how do you get started?
Well, we just spoke to a local care home and said, would you like to do it? I mean, how you get started, you need to have, and this is all in the guide that we've helped to produce, you need to have somebody who's going to host it. You need to put together some rider forms and a briefing, but all of that information is in the guide, which is close to production. We were going to launch it at the Nationals, but obviously we've got to add in COVID. So my advice would be spread the word, ask if people are up for it, and then work your way through the how to deliver the sessions. We had a lot of lessons as we went through, and it's hints and tips. It's not prescriptive, but it's just sharing some of the lessons that we learned at Cotswold. So you'd need to tailor those to your own individual groups.
Brilliant, thank you. Now Sheila Saylor says, how many ponies do you use at each session?
Well, it depends on the size of the group. So we tend to, well, pre-COVID, we would do 6 ponies in a group lesson, and then we would have one come out and as part of its rest time come and say hello. But you can do, it depends, you know, you can have one-to-one with a couple of people and do it that way. During the summer, we actually did well, it was a picnic with a pony. The care home came as a bubble. There was 12 of them, and they watched some schooling of the ponies, and then they stayed and had a picnic. So it really does depend on what you're doing, but people want to spend some time. My advice would be go small to start with. You know, the first session we did was 17 people, which was too many. We now do a maximum of 6 because people want that one-to-one time with the pony. I thoroughly recommend adding in some therapy dogs as well. That the combination of horses and dogs, aside from one of my personal favourites of animals, but the combination actually did promote a lot of conversation.
I'm going to take a couple of questions together because they're quite similar. So the question was this pre-COVID? And then we've got a second question, is this compatible with social distancing requirements likely to be continuing?
Well, that's going to be something that we're going to have to think through very carefully. Now, so social distancing, when I was looking back at some of the images of Tea with the Pony, I was thinking, oh my goodness me, social distancing, and how are we going to do this? However, if you have a carer or a family member, they are going to be able to stay quite close to the person. We always kept the pony and the volunteer or the coach very much one side, and then the other person the other side. So there's going to be some challenges around social distancing, but I think it is going to be achievable, because actually it's similar to the quiet corner. It's some stroking and some time spent with all of those lovely ponies.
Brilliant. Karen actually adds to that, it's such a relaxing activity. All the ponies really enjoyed the attention. Did you find some ponies surprised you with their empathy?
Oh, well, yes, we found some surprised us with their empathy, and some of them surprised us with their passion for Victoria Sponge. We had one pony that was like, oh my word, we'll just swap this one because now he's seen this Victoria Sponge, he's not going to play ball. Do you know, yeah, absolutely. Without exception, the ponies really enjoyed it. And they're putting their heads down, and they really did enjoy it. We're actually quite lucky. We've got a very smart dressage horse on livery with our para rider, quite young. And we just thought, I wonder. So it was a peaceful paddock rather than a tea with a pony. But yeah, actually really surprised us and loved it. It's something different for them.
Brilliant. So Francis says, what risk assessment would you need to do to take a pony to a care home, as some may not wish to take their residents to the RDA centre?
Well, I mean, that's something that I've made the decision we won't do that. And the reason being is there is a huge risk assessment that would need to be completed. But also for me, the beauty of this is actually it's using what we're already doing. So to bring the residents, yes, transport is a challenge, but actually part of it was coming into a different environment, getting out in some fresh air. So we wouldn't do that, but I know other people have, and I'm sure we've all seen that amazing stallion that visits a care home. Not for me personally.
Thanks very much. And then I'm going to take a couple of questions again. So how regularly do these sessions run, and how long would you recommend for a session?
Well, pre-COVID, we were doing at least one a day, actually. You know, we welcomed 400 people, participants, plus their family members during 2019. The length of time is quite key. We found 45 minutes was absolutely perfect. And how we did it was a bit of a rotation. So they'd start off watching the lesson in our gallery. We would take them through the stables and out to our sensory walk, and then out to the bus, and 45 minutes worked for us. But each group will be individual. We can't wait to get going back with these. We really can't. But yeah, it was at least one a day.
I've got a question from Carol Mounts, which I'll let you come in on, but I'm happy to contribute. Do you need specific insurance?
Well, it is an unmounted session, and it's within the RDA insurance. What we did was, and it's in the guide, we did some training with the volunteers, but the key thing was actually briefing the volunteers and the carers, and we would get them to sign the multi-green card. One thing to particularly point out was the health and safety slippers that sometimes the participants turned up in, and you need to be prepared to either put a barrier or keep them well out of the way.
Brilliant, thank you very much. I've got Lorna from Chipping Norton. She says, I guess this model could be used for anyone or group that doesn't really want to get onto a pony, which is a lot of people. So I think absolutely right. So this, we're talking about dementia care home patients, but it doesn't have to be those as your participants. I've got another one from Christine Hankin. Apart from the risk assessment, is there any other admin involved?
So again, all of the things are in the guide. So you do need a rider form, because otherwise you're not going to be insured. You do need to brief the participants, but there's a whole list of hints and tips and learning from what I've done. We're not far off having the guides ready, but there does need to be some work on that post-COVID.
Yeah. Alison Masters says, was each session overseen by a coach?
Yes. So we would have the coach from the lesson, and actually we were really lucky. We had a lot of volunteers, coaches that were really keen to be involved in this. They were gorgeous, and it was something different for the coaches to oversee as well.
I've got another question. Are you running these sessions to raise money? I think you said that you'd covered that. That was £5 per participant, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then I've got a question from Yvonne saying, roughly what size is your sensory garden? Hopefully someone thinking about creating one.
Well, it isn't that big, really. It was sort of inspired to get a bit of something different for the ponies and to get outside. We've got an indoor arena and we were staying in. So what we did was we put 6 different surfaces in. We got funding through the Greggs Foundation for a lot of that. And it was just some scrunchy sand. We've got some rubber from the race course. And we've got the water splash, which was really good. And it's there's quite a lot of photographs on our website. But if anybody wants to ping me an email, I can share what we did with it.
Brilliant. Are there any more questions? I think I've got to the bottom of the list of my questions, so I'll give you an opportunity to type in questions there. So before we finish, I think, Lucy, did you want to come in and say how people can kind of get in touch if they want to find out any more information?
Yeah, that's it. If anybody is really interested in starting this with their group, once we can get started again, please just send me an email. My email is lstokes@rda.org.uk, and I will give you all the information you need to get yourself going. And I've got some information and a case study from Cotswold that I can send you. So yeah, please do email me, and I'll help you as best I can.
And please pass on this information to people who weren't able to make it this evening. This webinar will be made available on the My RDA YouTube channel, but please do tell people about this if you've enjoyed this session. It doesn't look like we've got any more questions coming through. So I'm just going to check the chat because sometimes they sneak in there, but no, I don't think we have. Claire, I want to give you the final word because I think you've really been the driving force behind quite a lot of this. Is there anything that you would want to say to the 67 people that we've got here this evening about the Tea with a Pony and what it means to you at Cotswold?
Yeah, absolutely. It is just heartwarming what happens. It really is. And for me, I've got to raise a lot of money to subsidise our costs. And this is just a lovely way to use what we're already doing and to give people a properly special experience. I don't have any experience personally of dementia, but everybody I've met who's got a family member, they get a particular look, and it's hard. It's really hard. And it's the ponies, and being around ponies is so deeply entrenched in a lot of people's minds. You think about all those times in the dark, in the mud, But even if they didn't have ponies, they might have wanted ponies. And it's just that window, and it's heartwarming. I really can't recommend them enough. I've been moved to tears so many times, and it's good for the ponies. They love it.
Brilliant. I've actually got one further question, which I think is quite nice, from Jenna Late, saying, did any of the children get involved with the participants?
Oh, absolutely. The first lesson, it was children being taught. And there was waving from the gallery. Hello. I mean, I must admit, the first session we did with 17, where really there should have been 6, they must have wondered what on earth was going on. But we've had other times where, you know, maybe it's a one-to-one lesson that the riders actually come and chatted to them. And it is that intergenerational connection as well. It's just gorgeous, honest to goodness.
I've got one more question that they are still keep coming in. Do you only cater for dementia patients?
Well, no. Well, the original idea was, oh, could we use the pony to hook in? But what we've done since, actually, it's sort of developed, and we've got a lot of regulars. We've got some adult Downs people who attend week in, week out. But dementia, the difference that it makes, and it's an easy route in. It's a very straightforward place to find people that you can make a difference to. Dementia, and it's all in the guide. There's so many different sorts of it, but it works so much. It works so well to just give that special connection.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Claire. And I've got a nice message from Carol Mount saying, thank you so much. So very inspirational. So I think that really does sum it up. So thank you very much for spending your time and sharing your experiences. As Lucy said, if you would like to get your group involved with this, please email Lucy and she can provide you with more information. If you are interested and have got any spare time at the moment, we would encourage you to go on the Dementia Friends and undertake that training as a bit of a baseline. It would be great if all volunteers within a group that's going to do this do the Dementia Friends training. So we really encourage you to do that. But thank you so much for joining us this evening, and hopefully catch up with you soon next week. And thank you very much, Claire.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Thank you,
bye
Claire.
bye.